Over 850 million people worldwide live with chronic kidney disease. At the exact same time, ultra-processed foods have grown to make up roughly 60% of the calories we eat. Clinical data shows these two facts are directly connected. To understand why, we have to look back at the mass industrialization of our food supply. Factory lines allowed companies to produce cheap, highly palatable, shelf-stable meals at an enormous scale. Decades later, longitudinal studies have measured what that shift actually did to our organs. This chart tracks kidney function over time. The line drops significantly faster for the high ultra-processed food group, a decline that persists regardless of the patient's weight or blood pressure. The driving biological force here is a process called inflammaging. It is a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation that forces your organ tissue to age much faster than your biological calendar age. These heavily engineered products act as biological accelerants, forcing our internal filtration systems into a state of premature decline. The damage begins the moment you swallow. Industrial processing strips away the native structural components of food, specifically removing protective dietary fiber and leaving behind a highly refined, easily digestible matrix. Curious. To make these refined products taste good and survive for months on a shelf, manufacturers inject chemical catalysts into that matrix, relying heavily on artificial sweeteners and emulsifiers. This cross-section shows chemicals reaching the intestinal wall, causing a mechanical failure. The tight junctions sealing the epithelial cells break apart, creating a leaky gut. Foreign waste particles, or uremic toxins, slip straight through these gaps into the bloodstream below. A healthy intestine absorbs nutrients while physically blocking waste. The structural collapse caused by these food additives turns a protective barrier into an open gateway for systemic toxins. Uremic toxins aren't the only threat pouring through that broken barrier. The bloodstream is also hit by massive quantities of inorganic phosphates, which are used extensively as food preservatives. This side-by-side comparison shows how our bodies handle phosphorus. On the left, natural organic phosphates from plants are only partially absorbed, but on the right, artificial inorganic phosphates dissolve completely, flooding your system at nearly a 100% absorption rate. You won't find warnings about this mineral overload on the back of a cereal box. Current regulations do not require manufacturers to quantify the amount of added inorganic phosphorus on consumer nutrition labels. Consumers are unknowingly subjecting their vascular systems to constant, severe spikes of a highly reactive mineral that human biology never evolved to process in bulk. The uremic toxins escaping the gut, endocrine-disrupting chemicals leaching from plastic packaging, and the massive inorganic phosphate influx all eventually reach the exact same destination, your kidneys. Faced with this concentrated barrage of foreign compounds, the kidney's local immune cells, the macrophages, go into a panic. They trigger a defensive alarm known as the NLRP3 inflammasome, responding exactly as if the organ were under a severe infectious attack. That persistent immune alarm takes a severe toll at the cellular level. Watch this healthy biological cell degrade under continuous stress, transforming into a dark, senescent state and radiating dangerous inflammatory signals. Over time, this sustained oxidative stress leaves behind physical scars. It permanently degrades and hardens the delicate microscopic filtration architecture of the kidney. This diet-driven immune system panic is actively dismantling the kidney from the inside out, far ahead of its natural biological lifespan. This localized destruction mirrors a systemic biological decline. Clinical studies confirm high consumption of ultra-processed foods drives telomere shortening across the body. As seen here, the protective capsid, a plant-rich framework originally designed for blood pressure, as highly effective at halting this specific inflammatory cascade and preserving renal function. Changing your diet is an emergency physiological break. It stops the chemical assault and immediately slows the premature aging of your cells. Relying purely on individual willpower is a losing battle when the food environment is engineered against us. Ultra-processed formulations now account for the vast majority of available consumer calories in our grocery stores. Protecting public health requires policy intervention. The most immediate necessity is mandatory, explicit labeling for hidden inorganic phosphate additives on all food packaging. We also need large-scale randomized controlled trials to precisely map the mechanics of inflammaging, providing the definitive, evidence-based data required to force regulatory agencies to act. The chronic kidney disease epidemic is a predictable outcome of industrial food manufacturing. Reversing it requires a structural revolution in how society formulates, regulates, and labels the modern food supply.